And welcome back. Outside of Bowling Green, Virginia, there's a military training base, Fort A.P. Hill, where they're training for domestic warfare. Now, unlike many training bases that you see in the military where they train to fight in a place such as Iraq or Afghanistan, this one has many urban amenities such as a subway train, also a Christian church, signs that are in English, things that are very domestic, things that very much have the American people worried that they're not training for a foreign enemy, but a domestic one. Our reporters David Knight and Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs are on the ground. They were at the base earlier today, and they're going to tell us what they found. So you guys have been out there in Virginia for a couple days now. You've been scouting out the base. So tell us what you found out there, and did you find anything that you weren't expecting to see?
Yeah, we got out there and recon the area yesterday, and the security was kind of hard to tell. By the time we got there, it was closed. So when we got there today, it was kind of unknown what we would come into. We got into the gate, and it wasn't so hard to get in. Once we got into there, I drove into the Asymmetric Warfare Center, and an MP lady, a police officer, stepped out, and I gave her my retiree card and some emails that we had that Dew had sent trying to talk to them, asking if we could come in and speak to them about what, their operation. And the lady just kind of, I don't know. I mean, I was like, this is my right to be here. And I went back and talked to her. I left the car and they let me go in. I mean, they opened the gate and she was just like, drive around, do whatever. So we got in there. And let me tell you, I mean, it's an extravagant area. I mean, you can tell that money was spent well.
Yeah, because when I first heard about this training center, I thought it was going to be, like the old movie sets. They have the facade of a building and some 2x4s propping it up, but it looked very, very elaborate.
Yeah, I felt like I was on I felt like I was in Vanilla Sky. Like everyone was just gone. It was a real city, and I was just there by myself. It was very eerie.
And it was very realistic. Like you said, you had the street lights out there. You had a church and a mosque, a soccer field, just a whole lot of modern day things that you would see in the United States of America. Now, Joe, I know you guys, you've talked about this before, how you've done training in the military, and sometimes you encountered scenarios like this, but have you ever encountered anything that was so realistic of a American city, such as, the signs in English and also the subways?
Negative. I mean, one of the main places that you go to in the Army is Fort Irwin in California, and that is set up to look like Iraq, Afghanistan. El Paso, they do training there at Fort Bliss because of the mountains. It looks a lot like Afghanistan. Any training I've ever done for combat has been you train where you fight. That's the Army saying you train how you're going to fight. That's the scary part, is because what I just saw where they're training looks a lot like where they want to be fighting, and that's here in America. That's what gave me goosebumps is when I saw that, because all the places I've been to before, they're mud huts, they're mosques, it's desert. Everything's in Arabic. It'd be like, Watarega, which means get back. These were stop signs, pedestrian crossing, red light, green lights, firehouse. I mean, yeah, First Street, Main Street. I mean, an underground subway with the DC Metro signs. And
yeah, tell us what happened when you guys went into the subway, because we were watching you on the Alex Jones radio show today, and you guys went into the subway and we lost the connection. So what did you guys find down there?
So we got down there, and I ran forward a little bit just to make sure that that's where we were going to. I didn't want to just creep up on a whole bunch of people down there having some kind of secret meeting. So I kind of snuck forward a little bit and checked it out. It had this real bad, like thick fuel smell. When we got in there, there was an underground subway that was kind of like burrowed out, and they had the train stop there. It was a real train that they have somehow got and put in there. We got in there, walked around, took some pictures, looked at the signs. I mean, it showed the Capitol building. It showed everything on there. I mean, it was a very, very in detailed DC map.
Now, before we go to David Knight, I know he's there as well. Joe, give me your final thoughts and just tell me what do you think they're up to with this training center?
Well, one of the big things that I was talking to David about when we were leaving that kind of scares me. There's signs on the outside that say, warning, no unauthorized personnel allowed, and the lady at the front gate just let me right in, and I went in. That's what's scary, is the men and women who work on these bases, they don't have any kind of protection. I mean, that's why a lot of these things are happening on these bases. They let us just go right in. Someone's going to get, their behind chewed on this. I mean, they should have people up watching and guarding. There was cameras up. There were just people hanging out watching.
Right.
From the side. That's amazing, But we go to an event and we talk at a rally or something like that, and they got cops swarming us and knocking cameras out of our hands and shaking us and saying we can't be there. We can't be on the streets where we live. We can't be on the streets where we hang out with our friends and family. But if you want to, slide into a secret military base, by all means, just come on in.
Exactly. No, thank you, Joe. We'll have a word from David Knight here in 1 second. So, David, as you guys are getting ready, you were on the way out there and you're looking around, you see the base, you see all the things going on. And as when you got there, you noticed that it wasn't a whole lot of people around when you guys came into the actual training facility. Were you surprised that you weren't encountering anybody as far as the presence out there once you got to the training facility?
Yeah, I was very surprised. The one thing they didn't have there, like Joe was talking about, was surveillance cameras inside the American. That was the one thing that was missing from it being authentically American, and that was surveillance cameras everywhere. We've seen Carlos Miller with Photography is Not a Crime get hassled and arrested, beaten and dragged down an escalator because he had the audacity to shoot video from the platform of some public transportation in Miami. We've gotten used to living in that kind of thing. People need to understand that what they're training for here is warfare. It's the asymmetric warfare group. And they always train for warfare in the scenario where they expect it to take place.
Exactly.
So when you look at these guys, and I've spent a lot of time looking at some of the videos that they've got up, some of them about 8 years ago, 2006, in the midst of the Iraq stuff. And these guys are talking about what's going on with insurgents in Iraq at the time. And the way that they're profiling these people, they're saying it's not about the Muslims. It's about the people who are aware, the people who have above average IQ, who are awake, who understand that their dignity is being taken from them. They perceive rightfully or wrongfully that they're being dominated, that their freedoms are being lost, that they don't have any control over their self-determination. Jakari, that's the reason why they're looking at the Tea Party. If you look at what the asymmetric warfare group is talking about, it's not about the religion. The religion is an important framework, and it's an important underpinning. And that's why they look at Muslims as well as Christians, and we see a mosque as well as a church. Yeah, I was surprised to see that there actually was a mosque, because they kept saying that there was a mosque, but they never showed any pictures of the mosque. They only showed pictures of the church.
Right.
I don't know if they didn't want to offend the Muslims or what the deal was, but the fact that they put a church there, as Joe said, he's never seen a Christian church, a small-town Christian church, anywhere in Iraq or Afghanistan.
Now, David, I know you've been researching a lot of these urban warfare drills. I believe you did a special report a year or two ago documenting a lot of the helicopters and the military vehicles on the streets and so forth. So when you get to this base, does this all come full circle to you? Does it make sense that they have these helicopter drills and these military vehicle drills and all these other things going on around the states?
Absolutely, Jakar. What's happening here in America, and we've talked about this many times for a long time at InfoWars, we're seeing a paramilitary conglomeration under Homeland Security. We're seeing the military acting as police, acting with the police. We're seeing the police being militarized. We're seeing them get the kind of equipment that they only need for a prolonged counterinsurgency. We're seeing them get these vehicles that can withstand roadside bombs. We see them now training in American cities. They're gradually bringing this online. And that's what's very concerning about this. When we looked at these urban warfare drills that were happening in Chicago and Miami and Galveston and Chicago, they were always saying, the police and the military are going to be doing these drills, and don't worry, everything is just fine. Well, it's not just fine. It's not fine if the military is being used for police work. We have posse comitatus. We should be concerned, because we've always known, the founders have told us, Madison told us, that the instruments of defense abroad always become the instruments of tyranny at home, the means of defense abroad. So, that's what's going to happen. We now have a permanent standing army, and they're doing the sorts of things that permanent standing armies always do, and that is they eventually are used to subject the population. And one of the things that this Marine colonel was talking about last night, he said, it's the loss of economic freedom, it's the loss of their dignity, it's the loss of their self-determination that motivates people. Then they put it into a religious context, and that's why they're looking at these different religions. That's why two of the most prominent buildings in the area were the church and the mosque. One of the other things he said was the true believers are the ones who are really dangerous, whether they're Muslims, Christians, or Marines.
Because they go against the official story. If you have your own morals and your own ability to quantify these things, then you go against the official narrative. Now, David, our time is short, so can you give us your final thoughts and also what you guys plan to do with the rest of the time you have out there?
Well, we're going to try to talk to somebody there at the base tomorrow. We were surprised that they let us in to drive around, and I mean, we were there for a couple of hours at least, and nobody said anything to us. That was really surreal as well. But it was like going, as Joe was just saying, it was like Vanilla Sky or some apocalyptic movie. We expect the zombies to come out of the rooms pretty soon because it's like everything's dead. But we're going to go back and try to talk to somebody there, and want to ask them exactly what it is they're training for. I mean, we took pictures today, so we're going to try to go back and talk to someone tomorrow.
All right, David Knight, Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs, thank you for your time. You guys be safe out there.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, well, that's it for this edition of the InfoWars Nightly News. If you'd like to find out more of what David and Joe are doing out there in Virginia, you can stop by prisonplanet.tv. Get yourself a 15-day free trial. Like I said, you can keep up with their adventures. You can also get the Alex Jones Day Show, the rants, the special reports, all right there on prisonplanet.tv. Well, that's it for this edition of the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson, and we'll see you again tomorrow night.
Celebrate the spirit of freedom and liberty upon which our nation was founded at InfoWarsShop.com. Molon Lave is ancient Greek for come and take it. This popular design combines both classic Greek Spartan imagery with modern M16 assault rifles. Now available in women's tees and proudly made in the USA. And now you can protect yourself from corrupt cops with the InfoWars dash cam. It's your car's black box that records all that the driver sees and hears. And introducing the Block It Pocket. It renders your phone undetectable while protecting your private data and your health. Or take back your privacy and protect your personal information by getting your very own Detractor cell phone pouch. So get incredibly high-quality, freedom-based products and help fund the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
You are watching the InfoWars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. Members can share their passcodes with up to 11 other people, and your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.